Welcome to Gene and Mike do the New York Times crossword. Gene is still off tonight, so I am still doing solo duty for this Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. And for all you veterans out there, I hope you had a great, happy Veterans Day, and thank you for your service, and we hope you enjoy this podcast. So this crossword was a lot of fun. It was by Christina Iverson, which sort of guaranteed it was going to be a lot of fun. There was a theme, as you would expect for a Tuesday. 16 across was, it's hard to say. And the answer was, who really knows, which goes the entire width of the crossword. And then we had 37 across, it's hard to say, again. And that was my fault, which is true. It's sometimes hard to admit when you were at fault. And then finally we had 59 across, it's hard to say, Worcestershire, as in Worcestershire sauce. I would also like to point out, not only is Worcestershire hard to say, it is hard to spell. And so that was probably the trickiest part of the crossword for me. There were lots of terrific clues, as you again expect in a Christina Iverson crossword. We had one across, CAPTCHA blockies, and that was bots. And we had one down, blubber, that was ball, B-A-W-L. I don't know how often ball appears in the crossword. A total of 80 times, so it's not really that common. Interesting word, though. We had two down, numero de planetas, and if Jean were here, she would be correcting my pronunciation. Anyway, that turned out to be ocho, or however you pronounce the number 8 in Spanish. We had 5 across, crossed over. I thought that was going to be scar because I had SCA and just kept going, but it turned out, of course, to be the more appropriate scab. 5 down was inactive periods. I had it starting with an S, and I had an S in the right place that I thought it might be siesta, but it was inactive periods, plural. Anyways, it turned out to be the much rarer Stacy's. For those of you keeping track, Stacy's has appeared a total of 20 times since 1945. I'm surprised that it showed up in 1945, but it did. Slackenings of the blood current. Wow, that's quite the clue. We had a 9 across, building with a broadside in an idiom was barn, as in the broad side of a barn, and people can't have trouble hitting it. We had quite some time antonymously. Now there's a rare word as opposed to anonymously, antonymously, and that was a hot minute. Not sure why the minute is hot, but anyways, that's how the saying goes. And 12 down, an homage to my favorite drink of all time, where Coca-Cola is KO. And of course, KO can sometimes stand for knockout, as in TKO, technical knockout, but in this case, the answer was NYSE. I'm surprised they couldn't get like COCO or something like that, but I guess they wanted to go for KO. It's certainly short. We had 24 down. Place for cafe art was latte. And right next to that, we had 25 down. Singer with the 1998 number 1 hit, Nice and Slow. That was Usher. Next to that, we had 26 down. Canada's features a unicorn, and the answer was coat of arms. I ought to know why there's a unicorn on Canada's coat of arms, but I do not. I'm sure there's a fascinating reason for it. Maybe because that's one of the few countries in the world that has a unicorn farm. Maybe, maybe not. We had 43 across, a Greek god whose name is an anagram of rose. That was, of course, Eros. And we had, I liked 55 across, one singing the lonely goat herd, e.g., and that was yodeler. La ha 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 ho. Okay, I'll have to edit that out. 22 down, leaders in assists typically. So I was trying to think of the name of some basketball player or maybe some hockey player, or the position that they would be occupying on the team. But anyways, it turned out that the answer was just team players, which makes perfectly good sense. 28 down, one of the 5 W's, and I immediately went for who, and eventually realized that was incorrect. The answer was why. We had penultimate stop on the red BART line in brief. 35 down was SFO. And it seems to me that whenever the BART line is involved, SFO tends to hop into play. 39 down, 1957, Danny and the Juniors hit about a school dance at the Hop. That was good. We had 52 down, Convince was Sway. Of course, that makes perfect sense. 61 across, Some Rounds was Ammo. Again, these clues are fairly typical, I would say, for a Tuesday, not too difficult, but interesting nonetheless. 41 across was Stingy Sort, which you might maybe misread as Stingy Sort, and the answer was Wasp. And in the very far bottom right, we had 66 across. First coin to use the $ symbol, that's an S with a vertical line through it, and the answer was peso. Seems a little bit counterintuitive, but that was in fact the case. Fearless in Folklore for Taylor Swift, 57 down was Eras. Boy, Eras has been showing up a lot lately, and Taylor Swift definitely is to blame. All right, I think that is it for today. It is Tuesday, and normally we have Triplet Tuesday at this time, but again, I have not perfected the art of playing Triplet Tuesday while not cheating on myself, and I would not do that, so I will not do that. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Hopefully, Gene will be back tomorrow. At least one of us is going to be back tomorrow to talk about tomorrow's crossword. See you then.